Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Top 10 players for this Louisville program heading into 2024. And for those who've been listening for the last couple of weeks and months, you guys know I am extremely high on this Louisville team heading into 2024. And you factor in all the success that they had in 2023 and then say, I think they get better at a lot of different positions heading into 2024. This is one of the more dangerous teams in the ACC, fired up to get into this top 10 list. Before we do, and as always, just want to say thank you to you guys and a quick shout out to the Louisville fans. This is a program that we talked a lot about during that transfer portal window, and all the support the Louisville fans showed the boys. It truly does mean a lot. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Much more importantly, would love to get some feedback from you guys in the comment section. Some players I might be sleeping on. If you want to drop your top 10 list, we'll chop it up down there. I always learn a ton from you guys. And without further ado, let's get into this one. And I want to start before we get into our top 10 players and just talk about a few my guys. And I think this kind of shows how deep this Louisville team is. I mean, we're leaving out a lot of really good football players from this top 10 list. Number one shout out, Thor Griffith. And you kind of have a personal rule. Any defensive lineman with the first name Thor, I'm going to start buying some stock in. And all jokes aside, you go back to his time at Harvard, there was a reason that all these Power 5 programs wanted to add Thor Griffith in the transfer portal. An absolute game record from the inside, incredible play strength, but more importantly, he carries his weight so well. He is a phenomenal athlete that can get behind the line of scrimmage and really be a disruptive force. I am really excited to see if Thor Griffith can translate that dominance that he showed in the Ivy League to the ACC. Next shout out on the list, Jaleel Skinner, a guy that might be one of the most purely talented players on this Louisville roster, was a former top 100 prospect who committed to Miami, and although hasn't necessarily found his footing yet, I think this Louisville offense is a perfect fit. And we kind of noted that they didn't get enough production and playmaking from that tight end position in 2023. A guy like Jaleel Skinner can be just an absolute matchup nightmare, a big-bodied framework in the middle of the field. If you can get him on the field in some different ways, which I certainly trust Coach Brohm to do, I think Jaleel Skinner could have a breakout year. Donald Chaney, another Miami Hurricane transfer, if he stays healthy, again, you're looking at a former top 100 prospect, a guy that has a lot of physical traits that you like. Can he stay healthy? Can he remain productive on this Louisville team? Another guy that certainly could be a top 10 player for this program. And then Mason Rager. And this is a guy that just flashed elite pass rush ability at times. I think a lot of Louisville fans are saying, can we just see it a little bit more consistently in 2024? I think he's going to have some more opportunity as some more playing time is available. This is a guy that certainly could be a top 10 player on this list as well. Getting into the top 10, I want to start with number 10, quarterback Tyler Shough. And you ask me what the singular reason is that I am higher on this Louisville program than I even was in 2023. It has a lot to do with Tyler Shough. This is a guy that, and the one thing you have to talk about is he's got to stay healthy. He's played 5 seasons, hasn't stayed healthy for one of those seasons. But for Louisville fans, I think what you're most excited about is if Tyler Shough does stay healthy, this is a guy that has flashed some big-time potential at that quarterback spot, was a former top 100 recruit coming out of high school. Can Tyler Shough stay healthy? And I think more importantly, can he provide this Louisville offense a little bit of a higher upside than Jack Plummer did in 2023? I'm not trying to drag Jack Plummer. He was an average quarterback at best for Louisville, and you look at all the success they had in 2023 and then say they potentially add a much better quarterback heading into 2024. If you're a Louisville fan, that is where your optimism for this 2024 season is really placed. Tyler Shough, a guy, big-time arm that can get the football to any spots on the field imaginable. That's something that we did not say about Jack Plummer, but I think most importantly, he can create. The amount of sacks and negative plays that Jack Plummer had for Louisville last year, I mean, in some instances, just drive killers. Tyler Shough's a guy that is a phenomenal athlete, can move the chains with his legs, but also just extend plays outside of the pocket. If Tyler Shough stays healthy, I think this is a massive upgrade at the quarterback position. I'm really excited about this kid. Again, coming into one of the more quarterback-friendly offenses that you'll see across the country Going to number 9 in a player that certainly could be a top 5 player for this Louisville program. That's former 5-star wide receiver Ja'Cory Brooks coming over from Alabama. There's going to be a narrative that Ja'Cory Brooks is an Alabama washout. That's not necessarily true. He struggled with some injuries in 2023. That passing attack with Jalen Milroe obviously wasn't exactly what you wanted it to look like. You go back to the 2022 season with Bryce Young. He was the second leading receiver for this Alabama program, averaged almost 18 yards per catch. Louisville wants to push the ball down the field. They have a big functional wide receiver that can work vertically down the field. I think Ja'Cory Brooks has really all the talent in the world. That's why he was a 5-star coming out of high school. Now, can he realize that potential and get back to that 2022 form that we saw him have at Alabama? That's the big question mark. Going to number 8, and I think Monroe Mills might have been the most sneaky addition that Louisville made in the transfer portal. And you look at all the Power 5 programs that were looking for starting caliber tackles in the transfer portal. Monroe Mills was one of them, and Louisville was able to make that happen. 476 pass pro snaps last year, only gave up 2 sacks, 10 quarterback hurries, started every single game at left tackle for Texas Tech. You go back to 2022, started every single game at right tackle for Texas Tech. So this is an offensive tackle that's played over 1,700 snaps at the Power 5 level at both the right and left tackle spot. You talk about experience, versatility, proven production at the Power 5 level. Monroe Mills, in my opinion, is checking all of those boxes heading into 2024. A massive pickup for the Cardinals. Going to number 7, in another transfer portal addition, I think this kind of just highlights that this Louisville team used the transfer portal to get better heading into 2024. Corey Thornton. This was one of the better cornerbacks that you saw in the Big 12 last year for UCF. And a couple of things that I really like. One, the experience. 38 total career starts. That is an extraordinary number. I don't know if you'd find a cornerback that has more experience in the country. And then you take a look at what he looked like in 2023, a 51% completion percentage on 51 targets, extraordinarily low, 3 interceptions, 9 pass breakups, and a 12% missed tackle rate. That's an exceptional number for a cornerback, and you're going to notice that being a trend for Louisville in the back end. These safeties and cornerbacks, they don't miss tackles, and that's something that not a lot of other Power 5 programs can talk about. Corey Thornton, I think, a bona fide cornerback too for this Louisville program, and a guy that we're going to talk about a little bit down the road. I think this represents potentially one of the better cornerback duos that you see in the ACC. Going to number 6, let's talk about the guy that certainly could be a top 5 player, and I just want to highlight, I think, how underrated and underappreciated Michael Gonzalez has been for Louisville. This is a guy that's played over 2,000 snaps. When you talk about and read the spring practice notes of what the program, what the coaches in the locker room think of Michael Gonzalez, he's the guy that has the most NFL potential and largely has put that together on the field. 0 sacks, 14 quarterback hurries on almost 500 pass pro snaps, really can move people off the line of scrimmage. You talk about the success that guys like Jawhar Jordan had last year. A lot of that had to do with guys like Michael Gonzalez moving people off the line of scrimmage, getting it going in the run game. Michael Gonzalez, box checker on that inside of the offensive line, fired up for this kid. Going to number 5, let's talk about another returner in TJ Quinn, who led this program in tackles last year with 92 tackles. This is a guy that also led the team in run stops, is going to be playing behind a defensive line that I think is one of the better units in the ACC. TJ Quinn likes to play downhill. His average depth of target was less than 3 yards last year. It's really important to have that off-ball middle linebacker that can clean up a lot of the messes, navigate through traffic, find the football well. TJ Quinn has a lot of the physical traits, but I think most importantly, it's what's between the ears. This is a guy that's very comfortable picking through traffic and finding ball carriers. That's what you want in an off-ball linebacker. TJ Quinn, not necessarily going to be a top 100 pick for this Louisville program in the NFL draft, but a guy that's going to be one of the more consistent and steady linebackers in the ACC. Going into our top 4, let's talk about another playmaker in the back end, Devin Neal. 74 tackles. That was second on the team. 4 interceptions. That led the team. 6 pass breakups. I love the versatility that Devin Neal gives to this Louisville defense. It's no secret they want to put their guys around the line of scrimmage and kind of give this opposing offenses a lot of different looks. Devin Neal, he can be a guy that plays that nickel role. He can play a guy. He can be a guy that plays the box safety position, be another run defender, and you can also play the free safety spot and play that at a very high level with 4 interceptions, a 12% missed tackle rate. Again, extremely low for a defensive back. When you're talking about a safety that makes the game-changing plays in terms of turnovers, a guy that can be up and run support, a guy that can hold up in man coverage, a 61% completion percentage when targeted on 41 targets. This is a guy that checks off a lot of the boxes that you want to see checked off for a safety position. Really big fan of Devin Neal going into our top 3. Let's talk about another transfer coming from South Alabama and Colin Lacey. I think the production speaks for itself. 91 catches for over 1,300 yards, 7 touchdowns. The trait that I want to emphasize the most for a guy like Colin Lacey is what he can do after the catch, right? 842 yards after the catch last year for South Alabama. That's more receiving yards than most guys have in a season. Colin Lacey just did that after the catch. 28 missed tackles forced, so much juice when Colin Lacey has the football in space. And you go back to what Jeff Brohm does exceptionally well. It is scheming guys open, getting the football to playmakers in space. Colin Lacey, in my mind, fits like a glove. And you look at all the Power 5 programs that were going after Colin Lacey. Why did he end up at Louisville? I think it's because he fits so well in this offense. And you look last year, Jamari Thrash was a really good wide receiver. He wasn't necessarily the best with the ball in his hands. I think Colin Lacey can be just that X factor that you can scheme up a lot of different ways that this kid can get the football into his hands. And I mean, he's one of those guys that, hey, we're just going to get you the football in space, let you do the rest. Fired up for Colin Lacey, not only a really good football player, really good fit in this Louisville offense. Going into our top 2 players, let's talk about cornerback Quincy Riley. 12 pass breakups on the year. That led the team an 11% missed tackle rate. This number is absolutely incredible. 36% completion percentage when targeted. He faced 63 targets. This was essentially a no-fly zone for opposing offenses. And you take a look at Thornton on the other side and Quincy Riley and say, that has to be one of the better cornerback duos. I would take that back, not only in the ACC, but in the country. And you look at what Louisville wants to do in terms of bringing some pressure, bringing safeties into the box. When you have 2 cornerbacks that can essentially be lockdown cornerbacks, that makes it much easier to do what Louisville wants to do on defense. You can leave these cornerbacks out on islands and get aggressive into the tackle box. I'm a massive fan of Quincy Riley. Quite frankly, could have been a guy that's playing on Sundays in the next couple months. Number 1 player, another guy that certainly could have gone to the NFL draft, Ashton Gelati. You talk about just an elite pass rusher, but also elite against the run. Let's talk about the pass rush first. 42 quarterback hurries. You are talking about a heavy-handed edge rusher that just walks offensive tackles right in the lap of the quarterback. A 18% pass rush win rate. And the 42 quarterback hurries and the 18% win rate, that kind of shows you that, yes, he had 11 sacks last year, even more disruptive than what the 11 sacks show. This is a guy that just is a menace to quarterbacks sitting in the pocket. And then you take a look at what he does against the run. 16 run stops and averaged up the tackle of 1.6 yards. It's really hard to find edge rushers that are elite as pass rushers and really good in the run game. Ashton Gelati is one of those guys. I think he's one of the best edge rushers that you see in the country heading into 2024. You look at the success Louisville had on the defensive side of the football. It started with Ashton Gelati getting after the passer. This is why another reason why I'm so high on this Louisville team. That'll do it for our top 10 players. Let me know some players that I might be sleeping on. A lot of transfer portal guys that we certainly could have shouted out as well. Throw your breakout players in the comments section. Appreciate you guys rocking with the fellas. Again, if you guys do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Appreciate you guys, and we'll talk to y'all later.